Have you ever wanted to know the secret of success or why some people have money and an amazing life? My life has literally been dedicated to figuring out the answer to those two questions and really what successful people that have great lives do differently and how a person's self-worth affects their net worth. Most people don't think there's a connection. It's like they think, how much money you have has nothing to do with your self-worth. Now, people that have money can have a really low self-worth. In fact, a lot of people do. They have low self-esteem, and that's what drives them. But it's a different group of people that has money. They have an amazing life. And today I'm going to pull back the curtain and share with you all of my research of what I have discovered, where the difference lies, and more importantly, what you can do to achieve the results you want so that you have an amazing life with whatever you want, however much money, if you have a business, a success in your business and your life. So stay tuned. So hi and welcome. I'm Annette Ba'u. For over 30 years, I've been advising and researching the top 1% and 2% of millionaires to learn what millionaires with amazing lives do differently. And now I'm providing you practical, easy to implement insight so that you can take your business, your life, and your money to the next level. And today we're talking about one of the most critical aspects on your journey to success, your Wealth Barometer, which is directly tied to your Worth Barometer. And it is a game changer. So I want to welcome you to your Wealth Barometer. Please click subscribe and ring the bell. Today's episode is brought to you by our very own Worth Barometer guide. You can go to millionaireseries.com/WBG. Now, the reason I'm giving you the Worth Barometer guide is because your Worth Barometer dictates your Wealth Barometer, it dictates your relationship barometer, it dictates everything about your life. So you've got to master your Worth Barometer if you want amazing results. So again, millionaireseries.com/WBG. But I will tell you, I have spent my entire life trying to figure out what is the secret to success, and it all lies in your Worth Barometer. It's been proven over and over again. And now I've ran one of the most successful performance masterminds in the world for the last 15 years, and literally 96.7% of our results, and it wagers between there and 97.8, are people saying it was all my Worth Barometer. If you just taught me about Worth Barometer, it changed everything. You didn't have to teach me all the tactics, all the other elements relating to business or life success. So again, go download this, millionaireseries.com/WBG. All materials and intellectual property are copywritten by the millionaireseries.com. The information we provide is not intended to replace any investment, financial, tax, retirement, or any planning or healthcare advice. Before beginning any plan, you agree to consult with your own team of advisors and review your situation. All participants agree to hold millionaireseries.com and its affiliates harmless for results achieved or not achieved, and all international copyrights are reserved. For today's show notes, go to millionaireseries.com/175. For all show notes, go to millionaireseries.com/WLI. So your Wealth Barometer starts with your Worth Barometer. What is your Worth Barometer? It's the measurement of a person's belief and self-esteem. And it's something that I've researched for 30 years because I always wanted to find out, why do some people achieve amazing success and others don't? Why do some people achieve amazing success with money and have a miserable life? And why do others achieve amazing success with money and have an amazing life? It was just so fascinating. And what I found is that at the core level, it's all ties down to our Worth Barometer. What we believe to be true, how we feel about ourselves. And one of the things that really was eye-opening to me that I couldn't figure out was, why is it that some people have money and some people don't? And I couldn't figure out the issue of the Worth Barometer. And what I realized is that you can have money and have a low Worth Barometer. You don't have to have a high Worth Barometer. The problem is you have a miserable life. You oftentimes have health problems, you always have relationship problems, and you never have peace of mind. It's just miserable. One of the things that occurred in my career, which was really a game changer, is I had been hired right out of college to do an internship with the agreement at the end of the internship that I could be my own advisor, meaning I'd have unlimited upside and I could help as many people as I wanted. And I was so excited. Well, fast forward, that manager said, "I'm sorry, Annette, you can't be your own agent. You're too young, you're too attractive, and you are a female." And I remember I was devastated. Well, I didn't still know about the Worth Barometer, but what I knew was for about 4 years, I was really angry and I lived really below the grid. I was just plotting what I was going to say when I was successful. I mean, it was really quite immature, kind of funny looking back on it now. But the reality of it is I realized I just got to focus on being the best I can be and helping as many people as I can. Well, fast forward, my first major deal, just under $1 million in my pocket. That manager said, you don't have what it takes, you'll never make it. Have been trying to close that deal for over a decade. That's what happens, my friends, when you start living above the grid and you really start doing the work. And it's work. I'm telling you, anyone that is elevated their Worth Barometer is going to tell you it's work. Because you're so limbically drawn to how you show up. And if you show up below the grid, like I did for literally 38 years of my life before I knew there was a grid, it can be really hard to get out of it. It takes 18 to 254 days to change a habit. On average, about 66 days. So those first 2 to 3 months are work. But once you get to the other side of it and you start achieving amazing success and really loving your life, it's all worth it. So let's just review the grid. So above the grid, higher energy, love, peace, joy, emotional state is optimistic and positive, high emotional intelligence, really important. At the grid, they understand the grid, but they're not living it. Their emotional state vacillates up and down, and they rationalize and justify what they're doing. Below the grid, level 1, is governed by fear, anger, worry. Their emotional state is very pessimistic and negative. We talked about above the grid being very optimistic and positive. The most important thing as far as above the grid is how people show up. They show up looking and seeking to understand, trying to understand how that person sees the world versus making a judgment call. They take responsibility and ownership. They accept what's happening, and they're always looking for, what can I do differently? Why is this happening in my life? As compared to blaming or rationalizing or becoming a victim. You'll find somebody above the grid have an issue, same issue as somebody below the grid. The person above the grid is looking for a solution. The person below the grid is looking for someone to blame. It's fascinating. And people that live above the grid avoid drama. You know, if you're around somebody that's below the grid, everything's about drama. It's about gossip. It's about who's wrong, being a bully or being a victim. It's exhaustive. And once you start understanding this, you're going to avoid people that live below the grid like the plague because they're just not enjoyable to be around. At the grid, we understand it, but we rationalize it. So we think we can get away with it because we haven't yet really gotten that you don't get away with it. You might think you do, but you really don't. And then below the grid, you know, the biggest problem with people below the grid is that they'll say they want help with their financial plan, or they say they want help managing their budget or maintaining their weight. But then you try to give them help and then they start having every excuse in the world. At some level, something's working for them or they would change. And I know sometimes it can trigger people when I start talking about the grid. I get it. I lived below the grid for a long time, and I'm sure if I would have heard this before I got this and really saw the impact it made on people's lives, I would have been in the same boat. Oh no, you don't understand. You don't understand what's happened to me in my life. All of those things. So the problem is below the grid just wreaks havoc. And it wreaks havoc in your money. So if you have a low Worth Barometer, you might have money, but then you go bankrupt. People brag, oh, I had money, then I went bankrupt. Oh, that's your Worth Barometer. You know, no one gets the fact that there's a direct connect with your Worth Barometer and your Wealth Barometer, but there is a direct connect. So hopefully you not only want money, but you want a great life, the combination of the two. And you want to focus in on what you want versus what you don't want. So how does your Worth Barometer affect your Wealth Barometer? So we talked about this a little bit, but the Worth Barometer dictates what's happening in our life. And more importantly, the energy we bring to the situation. So how we're showing up, not only just here and now, but energetically. And specifically, the Worth Barometer will cause a roller coaster. You have money, then you don't. You have money, then you don't. You have money and you have all this fear and worry you're going to lose it. And it just keeps you on this either roller coaster or one of those hamster wheels, and it's just never ideal. Or you have serious health problems. In fact, when I did research on this, I was so fascinated once I started identifying all of this. And what I found is that almost 80% of the CEOs that I did research on all had serious health problems or serious relationship problems. And it was fascinating to look at when your focus is just on getting that money and that power and not on all the other things that are so critical to enjoying it, you end up with a really miserable life. I mean, there's nothing fun. And I know I've been in several situations like this where The emergency medical team is out in the parking lot in case they have a stroke or a heart attack. I mean, really? Is that the quality of life you want? I don't think so. So money is important, but boy, your worth barometer, your self-esteem, how you're showing up, what you're doing is really important. So we talked about above the grid, showing up and doing the work that's required. You've got to get in the driver's seat of your business in life. When you live above the grid, you are. High emotional maturity. You're able to push the pause button before you respond. Whenever you see somebody that just responds and says whatever's on their mind, it's because they're below the grid. And it's really interesting how you look at people that rationalize, well, I just like somebody that says what's on their mind. Well, that's just somebody that basically is below the grid, that is very low emotional intelligence, and they like it because they resonate with it. The problem is it just keeps them stuck. It doesn't work long term. And then at the grid, they're going to make excuses. They're going to rationalize it. They're not going to do what they need to do. And then below the grid, it's all about blaming somebody else. Why it didn't work out. What didn't get done. Very low emotional intelligence. Life is ran by your limbic brain roller coaster. Money, no money. It's just miserable. So raising your worth barometer, where you focus expands the energy field and what you attract into your life. So choose your thoughts, emotions, words, and actions carefully. So important. All right, daily habits to elevate your worth barometer and your wealth barometer. The first thing seems kind of obvious, but it seems like, well, it really can't be that important, is get sleep. Whenever you hear somebody bragging about not getting very much sleep, just watch their behavior. They are very much below the grid. We've got to get adequate sleep, and that means between 7 and 8.5 hours per night. Less than 6 hours, and you've got increased risks of diabetes, heart issues, obesity, cancer, even the onset of Alzheimer's. You want to avoid mental stimulation 60 to 90 minutes before you go to bed, such as TV, anything that stimulates your nervous system, your iPhone, computers. You want to start relaxing. You want to unwind. You want to do yoga. You want to do focused breathing, things that are going to calm you down. You got to slow down and recharge. You know, some of you are like me, grew up in the Midwest. You know, we don't slow down. We're not lazy. Being lazy is not a bad thing. We've got to be intentional that we get the adequate rest and we have the relaxation so we can operate at our best. We're doing the yoga. No, do I like to go over to my club? You know, it takes probably an extra 30 to 40 minutes to get over there, get to the class, get back. But no, it's the fact that I'm so present there and I work harder. I can do it myself here and I do it every morning, but I do work harder in classes. But it begins with what we're thinking. What are we thinking? And then what are we saying? And then what are our actions? You know, whenever you have to tell somebody, I'm this, but then your actions don't reflect that, that's a problem because that dictates our results. It requires that we become present and conscious and focused and are accountable. We are responsible for what's happening in our life. I just had a situation this last week that was really problematic where literally somebody was actually trying to take a significant amount of money and not pay me, like over $10,000. It was major. And right away I went to this panic mode, like, oh my gosh. And then I'm like, okay, why am I so concerned? Because I went to this place where when I didn't have money and I'm thinking, oh my God, what's going to happen? And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Nothing in my life's going to change if I don't get this money. Yeah, it was a principal issue. I wasn't going to just sit back and not make it happen, but it was still one of those things where I was like, oh, this is interesting. But what I immediately looked at is, why is this happening? What did I do? And I really can't say I didn't do anything, but at the same time, it's in my life for a reason. And so it just changed everything of saying, okay, I need to learn whatever lesson I need to learn so I don't keep repeating this. Because what you find is if you keep repeating something, it's just a lesson you got to learn. It's not so much a problem of having an issue come in to your life. It's having that issue come over and over and over again. I had a really challenging father. And I can remember one of my psychologists say, if you don't deal with Virgil, he's the name, and we ended up having a great relationship. And I'm so glad I did the inner work I needed to do to have a great relationship with him because he wasn't going to do it. He just wasn't able to. But what was really interesting, she said, you're either going to learn your lesson from Virgil or you're going to have 100 other Virgils lined up to teach you that lesson. Really a game changer. You want to continue to focus and monitor and even refocus on what you want. Determine when you're at your best. You want to determine what triggers you, meaning what causes you to go below the grid and what you need to do to get back on track. Like I know if I go out in nature, if I go up to my lot where I'm building my house and I'm out there picking up trash and just out there, I just feel better. And it's so funny because, people say, well, why are you doing that? And it's like, when you look at all the scratches I have and you're like, I just love being up there. I feel so good. It's amazing. You want to focus on activities that improve your focus and presence. And that includes primary strategies such as silent meditation and focused breathing. Breathing slows us down. It allows us to be here right now. Breathe in to the count of 8. You want to put your feet flat on the ground. You breathe in through your nose to the count of 8. Hold it for 8. And then release for 10. And then repeat that. Start with a minimum of 3. Get up to 10 minutes. It's amazing. Once you start mastering that, you're going to be able to master your focus on command. So many people can't focus. It's because their limbic brain is in charge. And once you learn how to be present and you learn how to focus your mind and get in the driver's seat, you won't have any problem with your attention. Don't commit to something until you're really clear on what you really want. And then take the time to create a plan. Don't use not having a plan as an excuse of why you're not achieving your goal, or I don't have time. It's always really? So you have time to be broke and miserable and not making your ideal revenue, but you don't have time to sit down and create a plan? Really? You want to reduce stress and pressure and increase reserves. We want more than we need. So if you need $5,000 a month to live on, you want 7. If you need an hour a day to rejuvenate, give yourself an hour and a half. If you need, say for instance, you want to weigh your ideal weight, which is 135, weigh 132. You want to create reserves because that's what allows you to show up, have peace of mind, remove or reduce that nervous tension. It's amazing. Eat a clean diet. Boy, I grew up eating so much junk and I was sick all the time. And then I started studying macrobiotics in college. Oh my gosh, my life changed. Now, I don't eat a macrobiotic diet as strict as they do, but I eat a really clean diet. I eat a lot of organic vegetables. I really, really am careful about what I eat. Organic vegetables, lean protein, healthy fat, complex carbohydrates. It's amazing what happens. You want to drink 50% of your body weight in ounces of water. As I mentioned, lean protein, non-starchy organic vegetables, healthy fat, avocado, olive oil, coconut oil, complex carbohydrates, and then limit coffee, alcohol, sugar, fruit juice, gluten, flour, soy, such as soy protein or soy isolate. If you're going to have soy, make sure it's fermented soy. Now, like last night, I had some wine. I haven't had wine in a long time. I just felt not great today. And I also had a little bit of wheat, and I don't eat gluten. So the more you clean up your diet when you don't, you're going to feel it. So just be aware of that. The next thing you want to do is you want to exercise your mind and your body. What's fascinating is so many people understand exercising our body, right? And especially as you get older, you're like, okay, I need to be doing more sit-ups, looking at all those things. But what about your mind? What about removing blocks, mental blocks, self-esteem blocks, things that are keeping us stuck? You want to begin your day with a focused breathing, and then ideally restorative yin yoga. Restorative yin yoga, not only have I grown an inch and almost a half, when my doctor's like, that's unbelievable. 2 years, I've sustained that. Because as you get older, you shrink. And what it does is it stretches your fascia. But more importantly, I've gotten more mental clarity. I'm calmer. I'm able to just sit and be, which is something when I was younger I could never do. It allows you then to ease into your day. Consider exercising first thing in the morning. It makes an amazing difference if you exercise in the morning. It's like a 95% more likelihood that you'll exercise if you do it first thing in the day than later. And it just gets all of your chemicals, your good chemicals, fired up for the day. You want to combine cardiovascular exercise with stretching and weight training. Yoga would be stretching. The goal is to wake up without an alarm clock, because then you have enough sleep. And I'm anal about sleep. The more sleep you can get, good quality sleep, the better. And then you want to reduce stress. Our limbic brain is there because if a lion's in front of us going to eat us, we want something there to say, get the heck out of the way, right? And it produces cortisol. The problem is so many of us live in a fight or flight state where the cortisol is always on fire. That is so deadly for your organs. Stress is designed to let us know that there's danger and we need to do something about it. The problem is when we have chronic stress, it really puts a taxing on our adrenals, on our organs, our liver, our kidney, everything. Cortisol is a hormone that is produced from cholesterol in the adrenal glands, and it's located above the kidney. The problem is excess levels of cortisol cause fatigue, depression, irritability, emotional unstableness, emotional reactions, cognitive difficulties, headaches, blood pressure problems, bone loss, and muscle weakness. It's just a problem. You got to identify triggers. What sends you below the grid? You got to determine when you're at your best, how much sleep do you need, exercise, etc., who you're around. Determine when you're at your worst. This is important because it provides insight to the gap between operating at peak performance versus average or low performance. It's not what happens to you, but how you choose to respond that really is going to dictate where you show up on the grid, because stuff happens to all of us. What triggers you and sends you below the grid? News, politics, negative people. You want to determine your response. What do you do? For me, I have to be careful about news and politics too. And anytime I'm around somebody that's really polarized, they're like, I'm right, you're wrong, and I don't care what side they're on. I just limit my time around them because it's not enjoyable. Those people that's low energy, below the grid. But you got to determine what's your response. Do you yell? Do you blame? Do you drink? Do you avoid work? Do you spend money? Do you get really quiet? Got to know that. And then identify your backtracks before you're triggered. These include what you can do real time if you do get triggered. How can you get quiet in a good way? Meaning, I need to take 5 minutes, I'll be back, and we can talk. Who can you call that can remind you of these steps? Or can you come and watch this training? Go, oh, that's right now I'm getting triggered, what can I do? I mean, this is a game changer, my friends. What can you read, watch, or listen to so that you can get to a level 3? Amazing what happens when you do that. So a recap of elevating your worth barometer. 1, you got to get adequate sleep. 2, slow down, quiet, and recharge your mind and focus. Eat a clean diet. Exercise your mind and body. Identify and improve triggers, responses, and backtracks. Reduce stress, increase reserves, and then determine what brings you joy and make it a priority. So today's episode is brought to you by our very own Worth Barometer guide. You can go to millionaireseries.com/WBG. I'm telling you, this guide is priceless. I would have given thousands of dollars. It's taken me hundreds of thousands of dollars to figure out what I share in this guide. millionaireseries.com/WBG, but I'm telling you, it's a game changer if you want to elevate your worth barometer and wealth barometer. Please remember to click subscribe and ring the bell. For today's show notes, go to millionaireseries.com/175. For all show notes, go to millionaireseries.com/WLI. So I want to thank you so much for joining me for your Wealth Barometer. I'm Annette Ba'u, host of Millionaire Insider. All international copyrights are reserved. Now you got it. I want you to just start where you are, pick one thing, start working on that, and then the next, and then the next. And before you know it, you're going to be elevating your worth barometer, your self-esteem, your beliefs, and ultimately your wealth barometer. And I look so forward to hearing your story. So make it great, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye now.